There is a child, 7, maybe 8 years old. They have made something they are proud of, a drawing, a story, a project that cost them something, and they bring it to the adult in the room and they wait. Because at that age, you are still waiting to find out what you are. You haven't decided yet. You are looking at the people around you for the answer, and the adult barely looks up, or they glance and say, "That's nice," in the voice that means nothing. Or they say, "Your sister's is better." Or they say nothing at all, and the silence is the loudest thing in the room. And in that moment, without malice, without intention, in 5 seconds, a story is written in that child. Not spoken out loud, written in the body. I'm not quite enough. And unless someone interrupts that story, it will follow that child into every room they walk into for the rest of their life. Into the interview, into the relationship, into the moment they are about to try something that matters. That is where we start today, because that is where it actually started. You were not born with an inner critic. No child comes into the world doubting themselves. You watch any 2-year-old and you will see a person with complete confidence in their right to exist, to be heard, to take up space. The inner critic is not native. It is installed. It is installed through repetition, through environments where love felt conditional, through adults who were doing their best, but whose words landed in ways they never intended. The parent who corrected every small mistake because they wanted the child to be precise. The teacher who moved on before the question could be asked. The classroom where one wrong answer meant laughter. The home where being good enough meant being quiet enough. The child does not have the emotional vocabulary to process this as information about the adult's limitations. The child processes it as information about themselves and what they conclude. What almost every child in that situation concludes is, something is wrong with me. That conclusion goes underground as you grow. It stops announcing itself as a foreign voice and starts sounding like your own thinking. By the time you are an adult, you cannot tell the difference between your own judgment and a verdict that was handed to you at age 9. It presents itself as caution, as realism, as knowing your limits, and you trust it because it sounds like you. The first act of real self-belief is learning to ask, where did this thought come from? Not to blame anyone, not as therapy, as a practical question. Because a belief that was formed at 10 years old by a specific person in a specific context has no authority over who you are today. It only has familiarity. And familiarity is not the same as truth. I want to give you a distinction that I think will save you years of misdirected effort. Confidence and self-esteem are not the same thing. Confidence is built through repetition, through doing something enough times that your brain begins to trust your ability to do it again. It is real, it is earned, but it is specific. You can be enormously confident in a boardroom and fall apart when someone you love withdraws. You can perform brilliantly in public and sit in private wondering whether you are truly worth staying for. Self-esteem is the deeper thing. It is your settled, quiet answer to the question, do I have worth? Not because of what I produced today, not because of the title, not because someone approved of me. Just as a human being, do I matter? And the honest answer for many high-achieving people is, I'm not sure. Maybe. If I keep performing. If I don't slow down long enough to find out. I worked with a man, accomplished by every measure, who had built one of the most successful practices in his field, and he could not stop working. Not because of passion, because stillness terrified him. And when I asked him what he was afraid stillness would reveal, he said that without all of this, there is nothing worth staying for. That is not an ambition problem. That is a self-worth wound that learned to dress itself as ambition, and no amount of achievement fills it. Because achievement builds confidence. It cannot heal the wound underneath. The work is different. It goes deeper. And it starts with being honest about which one you are actually carrying. Les Brown was labeled by a school system that did not know how to see him, told by a teacher to his face, "You will never amount to anything." He came from nothing that the world would call a foundation. And he built a voice that millions of people around the world have used to find their own. Not because the verdict was corrected, because he refused to let the verdict be final. And he said, "You have greatness within you." Les Brown, not much, you could have greatness. Not, you might have it one day if things go well. You have it already. In the present tense, before you earn it, before you prove it, before anyone agrees. The work is not building something that isn't there. The work is removing everything that was placed on top of something that always was. That changes the task. You are not constructing. You are excavating. The Daily Identity Audit. 3 questions before you sleep. Every evening, not weekly, every evening. 3 questions, 5 minutes of honest reflection. No journal required, no ritual, just you and the truth of your day. Question 1. Who did I tell myself I was today? In the hard moments, the mistake, the rejection, the thing that didn't land the way you hoped. What story did you run? I always do this. I knew I wasn't ready. Of course that happened to me. Name it specifically, because named things lose their power. The story that runs unnamed in the background has full authority. The story you can see and name, you can question. Question 2, is that story true, or is it just familiar? This is the question that breaks the pattern. Familiar is what you have heard the most. True is what the evidence actually shows. The inner critic is not speaking from evidence, it is speaking from habit, from the repetition of a conclusion that was made before you were equipped to challenge it. When you ask, is this actually true? Not defensively, honestly. Most of the time the answer is, it is familiar. It is not true. Question 3, what is one piece of evidence that says otherwise? Not 5, not a list, 1. One specific, real thing from this week that the inner critic would have to ignore to maintain its position, because this is how belief actually changes. Not through motivation, not through affirmations your nervous system doesn't believe, through evidence. 1 piece per night, accumulated over 90 days. The weight of it will shift something that years of wishing could not reach. The inner critic was installed before you had the words to argue with it. That is not your fault, but carrying it forward without examining it, that is a choice you are now making consciously. The distinction between confidence and self-esteem tells you exactly where the real work is. The 3 questions give you the daily tool to begin. 5 minutes every night. Honest answers only. Do not wait until you feel ready. The audit is what builds readiness. The excavation is what reveals the greatness that Les Brown was not talking about as a concept. He was talking about you, specifically in your actual life, with your actual history. Begin tonight.